Well, hello, everybody. It's Dr. Bill Williams with the Influencers Podcast on a Friday morning. We're glad to have you on today in the audience. All around the world, 190 countries tuning in. And we have an exciting show today with Gabe Carey, founder of Acceleramota. So, Gabe, come on in. Let me know all about where you were, what happened, how'd you get involved with the car business?
Yeah, so I'm based in New York City. I've been here for about 5 years now. It's kind of a long story on the car stuff. I was famously not into cars, like with people growing up. I'm actually from the Eastern Shore, Maryland, originally, um, and sorry, I have a kitten here. And it just wasn't really my thing. I was really like a computer kid. I was very much like a tech focused, you know, building my PCs and gaming and things like that. And for the first 90% of my career, I was working as a tech journalist right out of high school. Uh, I had started a blog when I was 16 years old in 10th grade. It was pretty small, but we actually sort of built up not a following, but like an SEO presence at the very least. Um, and I was covering like video games. I was interviewing game developers, and I was writing how-to pieces on certain tutorials and things people were searching for, and that led to that led to a string of other things that happened. I was in college in Vermont for a year and a half before I dropped out for a job. I was freelancing at that point for digital trends, and then I had so much work put on my plate that I actually ended up just dropping out of college. It made more sense financially to make money than spend it. And So I had continued to do that for a bit, and I was doing a lot of like deeper reporting jobs then. So I was covering the virtual reality space a lot, and that was really new at the time. That was like in 2015 or so. Um, and so that was kind of an emerging market and something that I was interested in. And so I was able to. I had a lot of freedom there to sort of explore different avenues and things like that in the technology space at least. And eventually that led me to Tech Radar, where I was a contributing editor for a while, for 2.5 years full time. And that was I knew a guy who knew a guy. That's how I ended up there. This guy Seth Macy, uh, he's an executive editor at IGN now, and at the time he was doing this job, or he was freelancing for Tech Radar, and he was offered this job, and then he recommended me for it when he passed on it. So that's how I sort of got started with the tech journalism space. Um, and then I ended up in New York City. I was in Pittsburgh at one point in my many lives that I've lived so far, and I was over out in Pittsburgh, and I was still working on that Tech Radar job. It was remote, so I didn't have to be in an office or anything. But I wanted to be in an office because I'd never been in an office before, and I kind of wanted to experience that. So I was going for a bunch of different jobs. I ended up taking one at PC Mag, which is a Ziff Davis publication. I was a hardware reviewer there for only like 6 months, but that's what got me to New York City. And I packed everything up. I had actually just gotten out of I would say, less than ideal relationship situation. And in Pittsburgh, and I was living with this person, and it aligned perfectly that we were breaking up in the middle of that. And also, I was offered a job in New York, and I was like, okay, well, perfect. I will, pick up my life and leave. Um, so that's how I ended up in New York City. And then I met my wife at PC Mag while I was working there. So, well, as of 3 years now. Yeah, we've been married. So that's, that sort of kickstarted the life that I have now. Um, I had a bunch of other jobs in between because I was definitely a job hopper. I am not someone who I get very bored easily. And so I'm not great with having a boss or authority normally. I'm not the most agreeable person. I will push back. And so not every boss likes that. Um, and I have constructive feedback, and it just, I don't always mesh well. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It depends on the type of person I'm reporting to. But yeah, I had some jobs in between. I was working for Future Publishing, PC Gamer, and Games Radar, and LifeWire at one point, the Dot Dash Meredith sites. I think there was a travel site that they also ran. I was doing some editing for, and Geo Media was probably the foundation for where I'm at now. I think it sort of propelled me into this place. That's the Gizmodo, Jalopnik, Jezebel, all of those sites. It was like a millennial focused. It was the Gawker sites, and then it wasn't the Gawker sites. It was those. They were purchased by a private equity company, and it is the end result of that. The aftermath is sort of polarizing and controversial, but after, I guess they were there for a year or so at that point when I joined, and it had been taken over by Geo Media. And I came on as I ran their commerce, like, affiliate marketing team for content. It was sort of a hybrid job because originally they were hiring a commerce editor, and they were hiring an affiliate partnerships manager. And I had pitched to them to combine the two jobs and increase the salary. And they went for it. So I had two jobs while I was there. And I was managing their affiliate partnerships, and I was running ad campaigns, things I had never done in my life. I somehow pitched, like, I can do this. And without me, after I left, their affiliate revenue dropped by like 60%. So they asked me to come back eventually. That was even after that. So in between, I was working at Stack Commerce. I was the affiliate director. I had actually started their affiliate content program. So I was providing content, and I was also managing the partnerships for like 13 different publishers, I believe it was. So like New York Post, Financial Times, Mashable, a long list of other sites we were working with. And we were actually, since they didn't have internal like commerce teams doing their affiliate content, we would step in and manage those partnerships for the entire portfolio of sites that we were working with. And after that, I went back to Geo for a while, but I was more in an editorial capacity while they had someone else working on the affiliate partnership stuff. I feel like that was a mistake because it probably should have been flipped, but they had already hired someone else. So I didn't last too long in that position either. And so there was some internal politics I don't want to get into, that there was a strike and all kinds of stuff were going on. So I left there and I went to Decisionary, which doesn't exist anymore. Well, maybe the website's up, I'm not sure, but it was from Daily Mail. It was a subsidiary of Daily Mail that was like focused on shopping content and buying guides and tech stuff, and it was a little bit of everything. It was similar to the site I was managing at Geo, which was the inventory and Kinja deals, which focused on a lot of different product categories, and including automotive. So that's sort of where I had got my footing in automotive a little bit was just syndicating stuff to Jalopnik that we were creating, targeting their audience. And so at Decisionary, I wanted to incorporate a little bit of automotive stuff as well. And toward the end, I did. But it was about 6 months in, they laid us all off because that company was being sued by the royal family. So there was a whole lot going on there. They switched CEOs. The previous CEO was the one who spearheaded the Decisionary project. And so the new person who came in was like, I don't know what this is. And they laid us off on Prime Day. So after that, I went to my friend's startup and I was VP of his company for a bit. His name is, I'm not gonna say his name. But it was a friend's company, and it did not. He had basically courted me over 2 years for this job of like, oh, I want to work with you. I want to work with you. Like I could be the face of the company and like saying this about himself. I could be the face of the company and you could be, running the business behind the scenes. And his business was heavily dependent on Twitter, which after a lot of his existing following kind of left Twitter, and it was in flux, he had to make some cutbacks, and that was how I ended up with no job. But I had started an automotive section for him, so this is kind of where it all came together. He was running a tech site and gaming and all that stuff that I had been doing forever, for like 10 years now. And I started this automotive section because of the proliferation of EVs. I just started seeing this like as a big category, and I kept fighting for that category. I was like, hey man, like we went to CES this year and the opening keynote was BMW this year. This year. That was pretty big. I mean, a lot of the biggest announcements were from car companies, which is different for CES, which is the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. Normally, the big announcements are things like phones and laptops and things like that. But this year it was, or like just some weird tech that is like a robot or something that Samsung made. But yeah, this year it was EVs. It was this color changing BMW that they made. And I got to meet the engineer who worked on that. And I got to make I got a VIP seat at the keynote. I feel like that was an accident, that I was invited for that. But I did it anyway. And it's sort of how I started this foundation. But the car thing didn't come out of nowhere. I also was running at the same time on weekends. I was running New York Cars and Coffee, which is, there wasn't I don't know if you're familiar with like Cars and Coffee. I feel like it's pretty common where you're at and like all over the country. But in New York City, there wasn't one. There's not like a weekly car meet get together that's open to families and the public and, openly promoted on social media and things like that. All of the car meets are underground, secret. No one talks about it. And if you want something that's more family oriented, you would have to go to Long Island or upstate or New Jersey. And so I wanted to provide something like that here. And I had started that back in November 2022. We just closed our first season. So it's a couple weeks ago. So we've been doing this about a year now. And that just came from, I just wanted to build a community. And that's sort of a recurring theme throughout this entire chapter of my career so far is community. And as you'll see with some of the later questions that you have, that will be something that pops up a bit.
Well, that was a great travel through the land of a digital nomad. I can definitely see that you've traveled into places that a lot of people have never been. I felt like Lewis and Clark on the expedition into the great Northwest, looking for the great EV in the sky.
Yeah. We'll still looking for that one. But we will we'll get there. It's definitely developing market.
What is your Acceleramota motto?
Yeah, so it's in flux, I would say. Initially, we were focused on EVs, so we were like, I, I believe it was like bridging. Well, I can't remember what the original slogan was that we did, but for the longest time it was like bridging the gap between internal combustion and electric or something like that. But we've kind of transitioned away from that a bit to the point where we're like bridging the gap between internal combustion and whatever comes next, which I like to leave that in. I like to leave that open ended because it is sort of an open ended question right now. It's not really. We're not. I don't think we will exclusively move to electric powertrains, but that's something we can talk about in a bit. But really, the essence of it was we want to preserve car culture as something that continues to exist even beyond, whether or not internal combustion engines remain as they are now. We want to keep the community aspect going because there is a big community aspect to cars that I think people don't really recognize so much. But going to car shows and meets and things like that and meeting people and learning stuff, like it's a really valuable experience, and you can learn so much just by talking to people out in that community. And so keeping that alive is pretty important to me, and I think that is central to our business. So really, we alternate between mottos, but we also say the internet's cars and coffee, and bridging the gap between internal combustion, whatever comes next, and then our newest one we're using internally is celebrating the automotive past while embracing the future.
So if you're talking to the public and you're putting out who we are in Acceleramota, is that like a blog or a website space, or is that more of a local meetup?
It's everything. So that's the hard sell. That's the hard part to sell, is because it's events and media. So we do have a website with news and reviews and things like that. But we want to integrate that more closely with the events we're doing. So a lot of the audience, a lot of the core community members that we have that read the site and follow our newsletter and things like that. They're all people who attend our meets, and it's how we've sort of built an engaged community is through real life events. So we have like a social media presence. We have 34,000 followers on Instagram. We have 8,000 on TikTok now, and that's steadily growing. And we have a small YouTube following, things like that. But the engagement, a lot of it comes from building real life community, and we've taken that online as well. We've recently introduced a Discord server, which is like a big group chat with different channels. It's essentially like a forum that you can chat with people in real time. And we have people on there, and we're promoting our articles through it, but we're also promoting discussions. And so I think the discussion aspect is something we want to really drive home in this coming year, and make this more of a forum for conversation that's like a community involved media. I think it's something similar to what they were trying to do, like Jeremy Clarkson, the Top Gear guys, a few years ago made Drive Tribe, which was like a combined social media and automotive news and review site. And they sort of tried to integrate the two. But obviously that was shuttered. So we want to make sure we're doing things carefully and without too much overhead.
Do you guys talk about classic cars, muscle cars, fast cars? What's your genre?
Yeah, so it's mostly the technology aspect. So it's a lot of newer stuff. We are talking about uh, one thing we want to start doing is talking about like upgrades for existing cars. So like if you have an older car but you want like a new infotainment system in it or new speakers or whatever, or a dash cam or a backup camera, like how to retrofit your old car with new stuff. But it's mostly newer cars because of the technology component that's sort of core to the coverage that we're producing, is approaching every review from like this tech angle, of like, people who want to know like how fast does go from 0 to 60. Yeah, so speed is a lot of it. What are the safety features? A lot of safety features have advanced significantly in the last like even 10 years. Backup cameras weren't mandated until 2018, and now they are, and now every car has a million cameras on it. There are some upsides and downsides to that, so like we want to provide analysis on that as well. It's like, yeah, we're going to visit some old car stuff because you have to in talking about the present and the future. But that's sort of what I mean when I'm talking about celebrating the past while embracing the future, is like acknowledging that there is this, existing and persisting culture around cars that predates anyone who works for our site, long predates, and attending, going out and attending events and talking to people who have been involved for a much longer time. I was briefly running events with this guy, Lenny, who he's an older gentleman in Brooklyn. He has the biggest like antique car collection in Brooklyn. Um, and he brought all of his Brooklyn Antique Car Club people out, and we had I wouldn't say a culture clash. It was more of like an interesting mix of new and old culture. Um, and the people that were there, we had a lot of people with like modded Japanese cars, and we had people with their like new BMWs, but we also had people with old hot rods. And it's such an interesting mix of people, and that's the exact crowd we want to attract to our website as well, and to our newsletter and to all of our media stuff. We want to attract both the new and the old, and try to find something in between that appeals to pretty much everyone.
Sure. Well, tell us what your well-defined products and services, something that brings income to the company. What do you actually provide people?
Yeah. So I guess we're not selling to the public, but we are working with advertisers, who I guess then are paying us. So we have an exclusive agreement with Car Gurus, that they're like our exclusive marketplace partner. So we can't work with any other, or we've agreed not to work with any other partners on that side. So like if you can buy a used or new car, we promote Car Gurus through our links. So all of our reviews, all of our news stories and coverage, you'll find links to Car Gurus. We have banner ads on our site. So they're a big component of our business, is being supported by them, right now at least. But we're trying to diversify beyond that a bit. We also had a sponsor when we were at Cars and Coffee. It's on hiatus for the season, but Rev Match Coffee is a local company in Brooklyn, so they were sponsoring our weekly meetups. We have a million different affiliate partnerships, like too many to name. But outside of cars themselves, accessories, parts, services is something we really want to lean into in the future. So we're working with a company called Finn Automotive to sort of flesh out our guide on. We're doing review coverage and a guide on car subscriptions. So that's something that's starting to pop up as well, and we're trying to just start to get ahead of new emerging trends and categories, like car subscriptions. So instead of buying or leasing a car, you would subscribe to it, and most people don't know what the benefit to that is, and they don't really care, or they do care and they want to look it up, and quite a few people want to look it up because it's our most successful article right now. Is the car subscriptions article. So they're wondering like, what is the alternative right now? Because interest rates are terrible on leases and financing a new car. So what's the benefit of a car subscription? It's a little bit more expensive than either of those options, but it comes with all of your service and maintenance costs included. So you don't have to think about a warranty. You don't have to think about any of that. So we're working with Finn on that. It's a German company. And we're at the moment, trying to review the service, which is hard to do. But what we want to do is actually use the service exactly as a customer would for an extended period of time, and see, like, is this worth it long term as a consumer? And then relay that back to our audience. And you have to relay it back in different ways depending on the channel. So our site, we can be more like straightforward and do some like deep reporting, whereas we might want to do something a little bit more influencery on Instagram or on TikTok. So the thing about the people who run our site, including me and Jarek, who's our editor-in-chief, is that we are flexible enough to do both. And it's kind of hard to find people who can both do like comprehensive journalistic reporting, as well as the more like charismatic Instagram friendly face.
It sounds to me like you're content providers who bridge the gap and try to connect people with the big product with the consumer who wants to buy the product, and you're a link between the two.
Yeah, we're a catalyst to that affiliate partner at the end, or sponsor, or whatever the case may be, depending on the thing. We also are selling merchandise, which has been surprisingly more lucrative than I expected it to be. So that's something we will be looking into more in the future.
Merchandise sales definitely will put some money in the pocket.
Yeah.
Hey, you talked about being from the Eastern Shore. I lived in Salisbury, Maryland, worked in Ocean City.
Oh my God, really? That's where I grew up. I went to Mardella High School.
Yeah, I spent 2 years palling around in Salisbury and working in Berlin, Maryland, Ocean City, wow. Maryland. And that was back in the 1969, 70. So,
my parents live in Fenwick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, tell me, being an Eastern Shore guy, what are you grateful for today?
Oh, a lot. My family has been great through a lot of change in my life. My parents have always been super supportive. So I very much appreciate that. Even when I dropped out of college, although my mom was pretty mad at first, I think eventually they understood. My dad got it because he didn't go to college and he thought it was a scam. But my mom, she did, and she was very like focused on the traditional path. But my God, have my parents changed since then a lot. Like they're completely different people, but they're so supportive. They're great. My dad is like one of my best friends. And now I'm married. So I have my wife, who's actually my business partner as well. She is technically majority owner of the company now. I have 40%, and I sold 10% to Jarek. So she's really the boss in the end.
There you
And
go.
she, but
Now,
I love her to death. We got married in a Miata. That was just, during the pandemic, and that was just, she's great for letting me do the things I do and supporting me through it.
now think back, back when you were 20, you had your whole life in front of you. What would you change? What would you do differently? What advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Oh man. I would like to take the easy way out and say I wouldn't change anything, but if I had to, I would probably say,
Don't go to
uh,
Pittsburgh.
yeah, might say that. Although I don't think, to be honest, I don't think I would be here without that experience, because I feel like I needed to experience something that hurt. To be honest, like I feel like I needed to experience that to toughen up a bit, and to become more resistant to the harsh realities of life, um, and become more resilient over time. And I have. I mean, all of these experiences I've talked about, that uh, from getting fired from two different jobs 6 months apart, uh, uh, quitting a lot of jobs that had problems, and caused me a lot of stress and anxiety at the time. All of this has led me to where I am now, and I have more confidence than ever. And I don't think it would be possible without these adversities. But if I had to tell myself, if I had to go back and say, like, do this, change this, I'd probably would have just moved to New York immediately after I dropped out of college. I sort of like stayed around. I sort of hung around too long. I was up in Glen Burnie near Baltimore for a while, and I just was too afraid to do what I said I was going to do. And originally, when I left college, I was like, I'm doing this because I want to move to New York. And then it took me like 3 years to do that. And I could have probably just done it. It would have been a struggle, but it was a struggle anyway when I first moved here. Um, and I probably could have just, gone off and skipped all the rest of it, and I would have still probably ended up at the point that I'm at, and maybe sooner. But I don't really like to look in the past and say like what I could have done, because I do think every experience and every adversity you face and every challenge in life is an opportunity to learn, and to move forward with that learning. And I think success is uh, taking that learning and doing something with it, and failure is letting it bring you down and stagnate.
It sounds like you've learned a lot from your trials and tribulations. It sounds like you've moved forward and decided what you want out of life after experiencing a lot of things you didn't like. So
Yep.
tell us, what would you like to be remembered for when it's all said and done?
Oh man. I would like to be remembered as someone who put their all into everything they did. I want to be known. I I personally don't care too much about my legacy, because after I'm dead, that doesn't really affect me. Nothing will matter. But uh, right now, like, thinking about how I would like people not to remember me negatively. And sometimes I worry that people will remember me as like working too much, or like I neglected my family, and I neglected my friends and my wife. And so I make an active effort to also, have some level of work life balance that allows me to be there for people. And really, anything I do it for the people I love. And so it's pretty meaningful to me and important that they also remember me fondly after I'm gone. So I think I'd like to be remembered as someone who is hopefully compassionate to some degree, but also like I did not, uh, I took every risk I could to get where I needed to be. And I didn't hold back, and I didn't like, I don't want to like, have regrets in the end of not trying something. So I think a lot of people will say about me that I'll take risks that most people won't. Um, and I think that's what I hope to be remembered for, and that I will be.
Hey, the support that we as an audience can give you, how can we reach you, find your website, find where you meet up? How do we connect?
Yeah, so Acceleramota.com is our website is our primary website for all of our reviews and our news coverage and things like that. You can also get to our newsletter from there. You can also get to I think our social media profiles and stuff are linked on there as well. But we're on Instagram. It's pretty easy to remember our username because it's the same thing on every platform. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, as long as you can spell it. And LinkedIn, we're on a little bit of everything. YouTube. So yeah, just look up Acceleramota, look up how to spell it first, and then you'll find us on any platform. And we're also, so if you want to find out about our events, the website needs to be updated, but there is nycarsandcoffee.com is our other website for events. And you can sign up for the newsletter there. It's the same newsletter for both. So you will get, you'll get a combined latest events and also latest automotive news roundup for the week. So yeah, follow us everywhere. You'll find us.
NY Coffee and Cars.
NY Cars and Coffee.
NY Cars and Coffee.
Yes. Yeah.
Excellent. I'm going to give you the final word before we close our show today. Thank you, Gabe, for being on.
Yes. Thanks so much, Bill. This has been great. I encourage everyone to check us out. Go to our Instagram, hit the link in our bio, and join our Discord as well. So that's a new thing. So we can, keep in touch with everyone.
It's good to see you here. And let me promote what's going on. Capturing freedom is important. We want to have freedom of time and freedom of working for ourselves. That's kind of a bottom line for a lot of people in my generation who have already retired. They want a second income. And so we've got a freedom QR code right here. People want to look at it. They'll find out how to get free and get extra income. So you're going to find that goes to my digital business card where I share two things. One of them is about the podcast here. The Influencer Podcast goes around the world and offers people an insight into how to make more money, how to get better digital technology into their homes, into their businesses. So we have a lot of digital AI-driven technology that we offer for free, and a lot that is paid SaaS service, subscription services. And so, if you want to be a affiliate member with us, you can sell the best of the AI technology to your friends and use it yourself. And it's all low cost, high value, extremely valuable SaaS technology. Now, I want to show you something here that's kind of fun. Since you're into cars, we have a thing called Fast Car. If you go to otrim.co/fastcar, you'll start to see the Supercars Magulus. And these people are partners with us in our AI business. This means one of the super car groups of the world has partnered with us to promote the AI business. And when you get involved with us, you'll be part of the AI Fast Car team. So it's kind of a fun time, and maybe it's an inside track for your business to know more about what we're doing. We're having car shows all over the world. And we have one in Dubai just the other day. We'll have one in London coming up soon.
Awesome.
So we have lots of different things. If you look at any of these particular things, they all go to the same place. But we have video conferencing technology at its best. So I want to make sure that for your audience, though, that they kind of understand Fast Car is probably the fun place to go. So if everybody wants
sounds
to look
like
at
it.
what we're doing, go to Fast Car, see our cars, how they rumble. They definitely rumble. They're loud.
Our audience loves that.
You bet. All right. So it's been fun having you on, Ryan, and thank you. And I'm going to turn the show off today. We'll be back in a little while with another episode of the Influencers Podcast. Thank you very much.